Hi, and welcome to Bee's Kitchen. Today we're going to make sweet potato pies. Let me tell you what, we're starting with the potatoes. I have everything prepared so that you simply have to watch my technique, because to me technique is everything. The ingredients you're going to need for these pies, and it's going to make two. Sweet potatoes, approximately 6, maybe 7, it depends on the size of them. Butter, sugar, both brown and white, vanilla extract, eggs, cinnamon, nutmeg allspice, milk, and I prefer evaporated milk, a pie pan, and pie plates. Okay, let's get started. What I have here are the sweet potatoes that I've already peeled and mashed, and then we're going to add to that 2 sticks of butter. So we're saying approximately 1 stick per pie, which is not bad, but butter is so wonderful. And we're going to start by I use a stick mixer instead of a my KitchenAid, because I find that I like the thickness that remains with a stick blender, so it just blends it ever so softly, but it doesn't overblend. So I use my stick mixer, and I'm going to blend the butter into the potatoes. And we don't have to do it a lot, we just want to get it in there so when we add the sugar, it's going to help melt the sugar into the pies. Let me turn this up a bit. Now we're going to add brown sugar, and I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, which is I think all you need, because don't forget we're still adding some syrup and some white sugar. So I pack it down, add that, and we'll add the white sugar at this time as well, and we'll add the same amount of white sugar. I can't tell you that when I cook, I use mostly organic ingredients whenever I can, because I found that when I use preservatives don't fit well with me, and I learned that years ago. But that's a story for another time. Right now we're going to focus on the pie. Okay, now we have. Want it to get nice. It's not going to get thin. It's nice and still, nice and heavy. And now let's add some vanilla extract. You can tell this is a new one. But at holiday time, they always have these huge containers of them. And I'm going to add a tablespoon for the moment. And then when I taste it at the end, I may make some adjustments, but I find that you always have to tweak at the end. Just for, if nothing else, your individual taste. I'm going to add 2. Mix this in. And then let's do the eggs. And the eggs, I am going to beat up a little bit before I add them, and the mixer will do the rest. Nope, I think I'm going to beat those a lot. Let's really give them a beating. Besides, you don't want little strings of white cooked up in your egg. Let's get the real beater out, okay? Okay, eggs in. And let's get those mixed. now we're starting to get to a pie. And we haven't even added the spices yet. I've had this recipe, I've made this recipe from a lot of women that have contributed to it in my family and outside my family. That's how I came up with the alligator as being part of it. And the one thing you never want the pie to do is become runny. Because the eggs are going to help it set it, but you don't want it to become runny, so that's why I don't use the big mixer, the powerful mixer. Now we're done with this stick mixer. Take a look. You can see it's nice and thick. And the stick mixer part is now done. See how it looks? Okay, let's add nutmeg and cinnamon. To me, nutmeg is the most important component of this. I use a little cinnamon, and I'll say we'll use maybe a half a teaspoon, if that much. After I sprinkle in it, I'll know. Not quite half a teaspoon. But we're going to use a lot of nutmeg. I have to tell you a funny story. Years ago, I was making this recipe. And that's before, and I've been cooking for over 50 years. But I didn't realize that the final product is only as good as the ingredients you use. And I bought this nutmeg, and it was just a store brand. And when I say this was a long time ago, and I kept adding nutmeg, and I added more, and I added more, and I added more. Do you know that it never, ever, ever showed up in the pie? I literally had to stop cooking, go to the store and get a different brand of nutmeg. And that was my life's lesson for spices are probably one of the most important ingredients for you to put into anything that you make. And nutmeg is the key to a good sweet potato pie. And you should see those little brown specks. Okay. Next, we're going to add the alligator. This is my secret ingredient that my mother's father's second wife taught her, and she was such a good cook. And from the first day I met her, because we'd always go for the summers, and from the first time I met her, she cooked. She loved to cook, and I love to cook, so you know I was in love with her. Let's go with a fourth of a cup. So you know we've added a cup of sugar total, and now we're adding a fourth of a cup. But the reason why this alligator syrup, and you can't find it everywhere, is so important is because it's almost like molasses. It's a syrup that has a real molasses taste. See how it looks? And it's still thick. That's important. Okay, let me taste how it's tasting, and then I'll adjust the seasoning accordingly. It's getting there. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, and these are salt flakes, so I'm just crushing them up before they go in. And I think it needs a little bit more sugar. Now, the reason why I keep this in mind, whenever you're using sugar in your baking, it should be sweeter than the final product. If it's not sweeter than the final product, it's going to be not sweet enough after it's baked. I learned that through experience. So let's add a little bit more sugar. And I'll put up at the final, at the end of this demonstration, or this, whatever your cooking class, whatever you want to call it, I'll put up then exactly how much exact of the ingredients I did use. Let's add a little bit more nutmeg because I missed it in that taste. I'm taking out the bumps and lumps so there's no bumps and lumps in the pie. Okay, let's add our milk. And I'm adding 1/3 of a cup. And it still is thick. That's important. You don't want a runny pie. And these were really fresh sweet potatoes, and I could tell because of how quickly they cooked. When a potato takes forever to cook, it's not a fresh potato. But these potatoes didn't take me any time to boil. And you always put them in cold water. Never put any potato in hot water. It'll just disintegrate. Okay, let's taste again. It's getting there. We're gonna add some more vanilla. And I'll say two teaspoons. You can tell I cook by taste. It's good, but I'm going to add some more brown sugar. Let's do 1/3 of a cup. So that means we use 1/2 and then 1/3 of the brown sugar. Let's taste it again. We're almost there. It's there. Okay, now we're going to have a sip of wine. Because I love cooking so much, one of my favorite ingredients is the glasses of wine. So let's go now to the pie crust. Now this is what I did before we got on camera. This is just a roll out pie crust circle, and this is here it is without the pie. We're gonna fill that one, but I just wanted to give you an idea, some tips on putting it in. So I take off the paper and I get an idea where the halfway mark is, and that's where my fingers are going to touch the center of the bottom of the pan. It's getting too soft because it's getting too much room temperature, but that's okay. I just wanted you to see how to do it and get the corners. The nice thing about pie crust, you can always just push it together and it just blends in. And then I'm getting the corners so that we don't have air pockets down there. And I'll press the sides. And then I turn under the edges. And you're going to pinch them, so you don't want the edges to be inside and you're seeing the edge of the pan. You want to turn them under. And don't scream yet because it looks crazy. It'll smell so good, no one will care what it looks like, to be honest with you. And wait till you taste it. Delicious. Took me many years to get this recipe together. Okay, now we have pie crust, nice and flat, and see how the edges are, so it doesn't look bad, right? Then what I'm gonna do is I take one finger, we're always working at an angle. I put one finger down and I take these two fingers and pinch. down, and pinch. I was trying to show my granddaughter how to do this, and I think that's what I was doing. Pinch, 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 pinch. And see, we just go around. And we're pinching the pie crust. And it's looking more and more like a pie. Starting to shape up, right? Hopefully that gave you a little idea of how to do it, and I'm sure a lot of you know exactly how to do it anyway. So now let's take the pie, and it is now time to pour in the filling. Here we go. Start from the middle and let it move out. And it's going to swell up. That's how you're going to know when it's done. And the reason why, now we take sugar and just sprinkle it lightly and evenly, and it helps the top of it caramelize. And then we bake it in a 350-degree oven until done. And the pie will gradually swell up, and once it swells, it's not done. You have to wait for the swelling to go back under. This pie is going to take approximately 45 minutes. Now I have both pies in the oven, and if you notice, I've staggered them. So I have one to the left and one to the right. One is to the front, one is to the front, and one is to the back. That way it evenly heats your pies and bakes your pies. Just remember that whenever you're putting pies or cake pans in the oven, to do it that way. I used to bake before I cooked, and I started out in the kitchen baking, and then I don't know, something just grabbed me to start cooking, and I bake at the holidays for the most part. Other than that, it's all cooking for me. Thank you for watching. And I hope you like the pie. I know you will, it's delicious. And I have other videos as well. Thank you.